Welcome back to another episode of the Grow Your Daycare podcast. I am your host, Christina Rizakos. Happy that you're here. So if you're here, it is because you're a small center owner or an in-home provider and you're having a hard time with social media marketing or trying to stay fully booked or trying to use social media to grow or advertise your daycare. So if that's you, welcome. I'm happy that you found us. Today, we're going to be talking about how to compete with larger daycare centers if you are a small in-home provider. And I'm going to share some marketing secrets that you can start implementing in your daycare. Okay. So if you are a small daycare provider or a small in-home provider, you may feel like you're competing with larger centers that seem to have all the resources, more money, more ad spend, outsourcing their marketing, and you feel like, oh my gosh, how am I supposed to stay in business when there's all these daycares, all these schools taking in 4-year-olds? How am I supposed to stay in business and not go bankrupt? Okay. And I hear this from clients a lot. I hear this inside of my groups. I hear this inside of our school community, and it is a real problem. So if you're feeling this or if you're going through this right now, you are not alone. But the truth is that you have some major competitive advantages that big centers just can't match. Okay. So today I'm going to share some of those. I have my notes ready. Before I dive in, I just want you to know that I did not own a home daycare, but I did own a small center. So when I say small center, we had 34 spots. Okay, this is all we can take. 34. I had 4 classrooms. And I felt this even though I wasn't a small in-home provider. I was a small center. We had 4 classrooms. It was family run. At the beginning of my business, we were the ones cooking and cleaning and doing all the paperwork, myself and the other business owner. And then we started, as we got more enrollments and we started opening more classrooms, we started hiring more teachers. But I did feel that the larger centers down the street that were more established, that they had bigger yards, more staff, a more monthly budget to spend on ads and on marketing and on their website. I felt that I could never compete. But the things that I'm going to discuss right now in this video are things that we did in our program, things that I figured out that we can kind of leverage that those larger centers that had 60 kids, 90 kids, 200 kids could not. Okay. So the first is emphasizing personalized care. Okay. The reality is that if you are a large center and you have, let's say, 7-8 classes and you have all the staff working for you, you have part-time staff, full-time staff, there is no way that you can offer personalized care. Because one of the biggest advantages you have as a small center or a small in-home provider is that you can offer more individualized attention. So large centers, they don't have the ability to do that because they have more kids, obviously, right? But you as a small in-home provider, you definitely have the power or the chance to really hone in on that and focus on that when it comes to your marketing, when it comes to your website, when it comes to your messaging, right? So you want to be sharing, let's say, reviews, testimonials from parents that have gone through your program that felt as though, you know what, she treated our child like family. Or you want to be highlighting that personal attention every child received, small, in their small groups. So maybe a small group activities, parents were more involved, field trips, you had more parents that would come and help. When you were doing activities with the kids, you had the time to answer everybody's question. You had the patience to do all of that, right? That comes because you have a small group and you can really focus on one child at a time. Your larger competitors cannot do this. Okay. So that's definitely something to think about when you are posting on social media, when you're trying to put your website together or your next social media post. Focus on individualized care and how you running a small center with small ratios offers you the, you're capable to do this right now. Point number 2 is you want to highlight flexibility, because the reality is that if I am dropping off my child in a large center, for example, and they have like a strict schedule to follow, at this time, class ABC goes outside, and then they come and have lunch, and then the other classes go outside, right? That type of thing. there's no way that they're flexible. Like there's no way I can just drop off my child around 10 o'clock when everybody's outside or when everybody's having lunch or whatever. It doesn't work like that. They usually have a time where the kids have to be in by so that they can count the kids, so that the cook can know how much meals to serve. And then the teacher's already in the middle of doing activities. And, they're going to get annoyed because you're going to come in with little Johnny in the middle of when she's explaining how to do something. So, but if you're running a small in-home or small center with smaller groups, flexibility is something that you can definitely hone in on, again, in your marketing with your parents when you're posting on social media, because you have the flexibility to do things like that. You have the flexibility to cater to parents' needs, especially parents that have unique needs. So I had a few clients that had in-home programs, and they had a few kids where the parents have reached out and said, hey, you know what, can you open up the daycare 30 minutes before everybody else because I have to drop off my child before, because if not, I get stuck in traffic, right? Whatever. So she was flexible enough to say, you know what? Yes, I can do that for you. I had other clients that were able to stay open a little bit later on, or even in the weekends, or the kids would sleep there. So it's a lot of things you can do, especially if you're catering to parents' different needs, right? Different schedules, different work schedules. So this is something that parents that need that flexibility are going to favor versus that rigid, large facility. This is the schedule and this is what we have to do so that we can stay on point throughout the day. Okay. Again, adding this to your marketing material is essential. Point number 3, you can create a strong sense of community if you are running a small center. So I love this. When I was running my center, again, we had 34 kids. I was running the daycare. My sister was the other owner. And then we had some staff working with us as well. And I knew my parents' names. I was on a first name basis. I knew what they did for a job. And we knew a little bit about everybody's life because we took the time in the morning when they would drop off their kids to talk about things. And the same thing during pickup as well. My staff knew a little bit about everybody's like life, basically, first name basis. And parents would tell me, I feel like such a sense of community. I feel as though I'm dropping off my kid and it's like their second home. And that is amazing to hear, because that was one of the things that we wanted to do in our daycare, was to really foster that sense of community, that it's not just a daycare, it's your second home, whether it's the parents coming in, my staff coming into work, or even the kids. I wanted to really have that type of feeling when parents walked in our program. And that's exactly what they got. If you are working in a larger center, you know that a lot of the times, the more staff you have, the more drama that could come up between, teachers. And it doesn't feel like it's a small home. It feels like it's a facility, because most of the time it is, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're thinking of how can I differentiate myself from a large center, honing in on community and that sense of small knit community in our program is something to consider when you're putting your content together, or when you're thinking of putting your social media posts together. Point number 4 is being transparent and authentic. Obviously, we know that parents want to feel that they can trust you, that you're someone that can be trusted with their child. So being transparent and authentic is just really, really important. You want to be open about your daily activities, the programs that you offer, and just the atmosphere in the daycare. And again, authenticity is key in building trust. The faster you have trust, the faster you get phone calls, you book visits, and you get people to enroll in your program. If it's a large corporate type facility center, this is difficult, right? This is difficult to be transparent about day-to-day things, or, about issues you may be having, or about, special events coming up. It's not something that is really a priority list of bigger centers, right? But if you're a smaller program, a small in-home, for example, this is something that you can, again, take advantage of when you're putting your marketing material together. Number 5, highlight your expertise and your niche. So a lot of small in-homes have the advantage of offering or catering to a specific type of family or niche, and just having that expertise, right? If you're working in a large center, it's more difficult to say, well, we specialize in special needs kids, for example. Like, there's no way the entire daycare is special needs kids, right? If you're offering, let's say, Montessori, most of the time, what I've seen from my clients is like the whole daycare is Montessori. It's not just one classroom that's Montessori, right? Or if you want to do Reggio Emilia or like a STEM program or whatever. But if you're small in home, you definitely have the flexibility to say, you know what? we are going to cater to parents. I had a client, for example, that catered to parents that had schedules that didn't look like a 9 to 5. So that was in her marketing, that we cater to parents and families that have odd schedules, right? That was her thing. I had another client that was offering bilingual, so it was English and Spanish, Montessori daycare, home daycare. And she would have specialists come in, and everything was set up to according to Montessori, and that's what she did, right? The entire home daycare was about that, so she could really focus on that and say we specialize in this, right? I had another provider that only took toddlers, and when the kids were preschool age, they would have to go off to preschool, so she really focused on that niche, moms and dads that had young children up to toddler age. And, she really talked about how she specializes in that age, right? And how the facility, her program was set up to really foster toddlers' development. So again, these are all things to consider. It's just so much easier for you to kind of find that niche and really hone in on that expertise versus, larger centers when they can't really do that with 10 classrooms and 200 kids that are signed up. Okay. So there you have it, you guys. A few ways that you can compete with larger centers. Again, focusing on advantages like personalized care, flexibility, a strong sense of community, authenticity, and niche and expertise. Really, really important to really think about these things, write them down, and then implement them in your day-to-day. So when you're marketing, when you're posting, when you're doing videos on social media, when you're putting your website together, you always want to be thinking about these things, always thinking about how can I differentiate myself from competition, from larger centers, and making sure that your messaging really is everywhere. It's on your business card, it's on your social media platforms, on your videos, on your website. So parents get to see that, hey, there's advantages over here. Like they're offering this and this and this and this, right? And that's how you differentiate yourself. And that's how you feel less invisible, if you will, against the larger centers that may be popping up left and right in your community. So let me know if you enjoyed this video, guys. If I do want to mention also that we have a SKOOL community. If you're someone that is struggling with marketing, you have a half-booked program, you need help with marketing, you just don't know what you're doing, and you need someone to kind of help you figure all this out, we have a SKOOL community where we offer written for you social media captions, graphics, marketing training, and a bunch of other amazing things. If you want to get some information or try it out for free, I will put the links in the show notes of this video. Make sure you check those out. Other than that, I hope this blesses you.